So, are we in a buyer's market or a seller's market? Is the real estate market in Florida going to collapse or is it stable and thriving? We need to look at the data to see what exactly is happening. My name is Andre. I'm with the Adams Group Experience, and I help people like you every single day make decisions like these to see whether or not buying, selling, or doing nothing is the right thing to do. So, if that's something that is of interest to you, my contact information is in the description below, and I would love to have that conversation with you. But today, what we're going to do is a deep dive into the data presented to us for Hernando County and specifically the Spring Hill area. So, sentiment in home ownership has been pretty bad over the last few months. Now, we know that interest rates have started to come down a little bit, and there's been a ton of chatter with the Federal Reserve as it relates to interest rates coming down from the federal funds rate over the next few months going into the election. Now, while not directly correlated, the federal funds rate does impact what impacts mortgage. Let's take a look at the Spring Hill market at a glance. So right now, as of July 31st, there are 834 homes for sale in Spring Hill. Now, we get monthly data that comes out, but it's always looking back. Real estate is not a very forward-looking type industry. We can forecast what we think will happen, but without seeing the data, we don't really know. There were 247 new listings in July. The median sales price was $312,000 as of June 30th. The median list price was $348,000. Now, here's something that I think was pretty interesting. 20% of sales were over list price. So 1 in 5 homes sold over list price. However, 1 in 2 homes sold under list price. And so right now we are seeing price reductions and homes selling for less than what they were listed for being the norm. But why would that be? There is actually a rise in inventory happening right now. So a good amount of people have locked in very, very low interest rates from throughout the pandemic, either by buying during that time or refinancing during that time. So even though interest rates have been coming down, they are still historically high for the near term. Not historically high over the long period of time, but in the near term, they are higher than they have been for quite a while. So a lot of home owners are frozen in place because the cost of selling their home and the interest rate that they would be giving up is not in perspective a good idea to then buy a new home. So they're frozen in place. But what can happen and what is likely to happen is that as interest rates starts to go down, you're going to see a lot of that inventory start to rise even further. So right now, there is great speculation that a good amount of people who are selling in this moment are what are called forced sellers. Life continues. So job changes, job loss, job gain, family changes, additions to family, family changes. Unfortunately, divorce happens, life happens. Sometimes, unfortunately, even death happens. So, a lot of the inventory that is coming onto the market is considered to be forced inventory. People who had no choice other than to do something in their current state. So, the market has to be efficient. And when we look at efficiency, is through lack of intervention, the free market has to decide what a house is worth and what the market is willing to bear for those homes. And what we've seen in the last few years is that home prices have increased, especially in the Spring Hill area, by a lot. Looking at this chart, the average home price in 2020 in Spring Hill was $196,000. Today, that average home price is $321,000. Now, while we look at this graph, we can see that it's evened out from peaking out at $327,000. Now, this is all Zillow data, so there's a lot of different sites with a lot of different data points, but we can see that it started to even out. So we had a very, very steep rise, and we've sort of plateaued as of 2022. So we've kind of gone flat, which is good for stabilization, but not so much for affordability. So there are still people who find even our prices, which are relatively low comparative to the Tampa metropolitan area, to still be quite high. And that is an opinion that is shared by a lot of different people that I speak to on a daily basis. So now, what other things should we care about? So what's another factor that makes a lot of sense is we're going to look at a Redfin now data point when it comes to days on market. So the median days on market right now is 38 days, which in a year-over-year basis has gone up quite a bit. We can see in this graph in 2021 into 2022 that we were looking under 10 to 15 days on market for some of the information that we have available to us. And now that has creeped up to about 40 days on market. So there's a lot on median days on market in the Spring Hill area, but 40 days seems to be the average and what we are looking at. Where are buyers coming from? There are people buying homes, whether it is a booming economy with a booming real estate market or a bearish economy with a bearish real estate market. Transactions still occur. There just will not be as many of them as we are used to. But where are they coming from? So here's a list of the top 10 areas that people are coming to Spring Hill from. And number one on that list is New York. Now, I will admit I am from New York. I moved here in 2012, long before people started coming down here in droves due to the pandemic. So I have adapted to the Florida life and fully embraced it. So please do not hammer me in the comments for being from New York. The most amount of people, 1,786 in the last year, have come to Spring Hill from New York. The second place that they're coming from is Washington, D.C. 1,190 people coming from Washington, D.C. And number three on that list is Chicago. So we have northeastern states leading the way that most people are migrating to Spring Hill from. But people leave too. So where are they headed? Top three places that people are headed to who are leaving Spring Hill are Sarasota, Orlando, and Homosassa Springs. So a lot of people are leaving Spring Hill, but to stay in the Florida area. The number 4 place on there was Asheville, North Carolina. After that, we have Ocala and some other places, but a good amount of places that people are leaving Spring Hill to are actually to stay in Florida. And while most people coming to Spring Hill, we had one city in Florida on the list for Spring Hill, and that was Miami. Okay, so people coming from Miami to Spring Hill. So, but what, as you can see from some of the data I put on the screen, there are more people coming into Spring Hill than are leaving. So let's be honest and talk a little bit about challenges that we're going to see in the real estate market and what is actually happening. So I have this graph on the board where it shows the year-over-year increase in inventory. And while I was previously discussing that rising inventory is going to create a challenge because life does happen, here is the actual number. Right now in zip codes 34606, 34608, 34609, you're seeing anywhere from 94 to 125% rise in inventory. So that is a great deal of inventory that has come on the market in the last year. And that's kind of what we were discussing about, where, at some point people have held off doing anything, seeing if anything was going to happen with interest rates. And many people thought that we were going to have interest rate cuts way sooner than we did. And we're just now having to have that conversation. And this is about 2 years into the longest tightening cycle that the Fed has done in recent history that I am even aware of. And so now people are just like, I just got to do this. I have to make a decision. And so we're seeing rising inventory rates. Now we're also seeing the perception that there's a lot of doom and gloom that Florida housing market is about to collapse, or it's about to be in a big recession. But there are warning signs in the economy that we need to look at. Number one is credit card delinquency rates. Credit card delinquency rates are rising. So there's a concern there that people might be over leveraged when it comes to credit card debt. Number two, auto loan delinquency rates. There's a subprime issue in auto loans that nobody's really talking about right now, where people who have bought cars that lose value when they leave the lots and then have high payments on it with interest rates. And so they're paying more than the car is really worth. And so there's an issue there. There's an issue in commercial real estate where the work from home environment that people are living in now has changed the way in which we do business, which is also allowing people to move to areas like Spring Hill because they don't have to have these massive commutes that they're used to having. So that's going to have an impact in the near future. But when it comes down to it, the number one thing that we're looking at is delinquency rate for home payments, and also unemployment rate, because unemployed individuals are the ones who would likely not be able to pay their mortgage and do all the things. Now, there's a great deal of people that do not even have a mortgage on their home. I believe the number is about 42%. There's a great deal of individuals who do not even have a mortgage on their home. So what their primary concern will be the rise in taxes and the rise in insurance that's occurring. So now there has been rumors that there are going to be more insurance carriers coming into the state in 2025. So there's going to be help is on the way when it comes to insurance carriers, and we hope that adds a little bit of relief when it comes down to insurance premiums. Now, so in today's environment, what are the opportunities for a great deal? Now, here's what I would recommend and what I am seeing. Right now, new construction inventory is extremely high. The incentives being offered by home builders is out of this world. There are home builders that are offering zero closing costs, 20,000 in flex credits. They're buying down interest rates permanently into the fives, fours. I've even seen some in the threes, depending on whether or not they need to move that inventory quickly. So they are looking to move inventory pretty quick. Now, with a new construction, you obviously do not have some of the maintenance needs that you would need to have dealt with in the terms of a resale home, which makes a new home fairly attractive. So, in my opinion, the greatest opportunity right now in real estate buying and selling is actually in new construction, and I am happy to help you with that when if you were looking to have a conversation about new construction. And I'll make this point as well. A lot of people believe that they don't need a real estate agent to help them when it comes to new construction because they can walk into the builder and have the conversation with the person who's sitting there and get all the help they need. And I want to gently remind everybody that the person who's sitting there greeting you and being very, very nice to you and very professional to you works for the builder and represents the builder's best interest. And they are not going to compare and contrast all of the different options available to you for their competitors because they do not want you to go to their competitors. They want to sell you their home. That is their job. So having that kind of representation will be helpful to make sure that you are getting the best deal and the best incentive, but know that the builders do offer buyer agent compensation. So the builders will actually incentivize agents to bring buyers to them. And so if it's a cost issue, feeling that you'd have to now pay out of pocket to have that representation, I can tell you that's just simply not true. But right now, that is the biggest opportunity that I see. So when you're looking at opportunity, you're going to be assessing one, where is the inventory? Are you in a price point that is more of the median for the area, or are you above the median for the area? And what does that market really look like? What's the new home inventory look like? Are dealers off new home builders offering such an incentive that it would make sense for you to take a lower interest rate and get closing cost assistance and flex cash to buy down rates even further? Does that make sense? On a resale, like we talked about days on market, does that make sense to look at what's available in the market, see what's been done? Because know that right now, what we see is if a home has been updated and well kept and well priced, it does move fairly quickly. It's everything else that's been sitting for a while. So as we look through the market data and we're looking at this update and you're deciding, is now the right time to buy? Well, what's your circumstance? What is it that you need to do and when do you need to do it by? If you're somebody looking to sell, what's your circumstance? Can you wait? Can you see what's going on? Right now, inventory is rising. Now, if you choose to wait even further, do we think inventory is going to rise even more? That's a question and a conversation that we should have. What needs to be done to the home? Is it in pristine condition that a buyer would be interested immediately in taking it, or is it something that you would want to put a little bit of work into to get it ready to sell as quickly and for the most money as you can? So those are conversations that need to be had. But as we do this update, it's bigger picture concepts, not so much just data points that tell you a story just in data. It's what we're seeing on the ground dealing with the day-to-day individuals we have conversations with. So if you found this interesting, I hope you consider subscribing to the channel, liking this video, and sharing it. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. And if you do need assistance and want to have a conversation, shoot me a message. My contact information is in the description. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.